Classic WoW has a problem. And you know what that means? Place your bets. Is it gonna be something to do with botting or with dwindling player numbers? Because I honestly can't imagine anything else here.
Well, I've been thinking of making this video for a little while now. As of today in WoW Classic, we have the whole hardcore scene that's been growing, and the official servers for that on their way. We've seen many players heading back to Classic era for some of that original vanilla flavour, and in Wrath Classic, the penultimate phase in Trial of the Crusader has recently dropped. All in all, there's quite a few choices for the classic WoW enthusiast. But what happens beyond these new game modes and Wrath as an expansion is not yet confirmed. We do know Blizzard are planning another seasonal, presumably vanilla server down the line, and it certainly feels as though Cata will be a given, right? And how Classic has worked so far has set precedents as for how Blizzard...
You know, a hot take, this is probably the best one I honestly have. Cataclysm will actually be a huge success. Cataclysm is going to outperform Wrath of the Lich King. And I know you're thinking, he's crazy. Technically, you're correct. But I have something to back up this craziness. Originally, most people left World of Warcraft after Wrath of the Lich King. AKA, a lot of people did not experience Cataclysm, right? So, I think a lot of people now are gonna look back and say, you know what, I want to finally experience Cataclysm. I want to see what all that is about. And I think a lot of people are gonna come back and experience Cataclysm. No matter what people say about it, they just will want to experience this. And I think this is gonna push Cataclysm to be better and more anticipated than Wrath of the Lich King. It's a hot take, and it's a wild shot, but I think there's a good chance that that's going to be true because of how many people originally missed out on this expansion.
Blizzard are probably going to be doing things in the future, such as the game releasing on its last patch configuration, for the most part. Class balance doesn't change, many of the updates made during the expansion are there from day one, and we know what there is to look forwards to in the future. Blizzard have even said in the past that they've chosen to do things this way because it's the most complete version of the expansion, and one that represents the lessons learned during it as for class balance and so on. It's also going to save them a ton of work. I mean, do Blizzard really want to rebalance each class during every major content patch?
Yes. Maybe they don't want to do it, but they should definitely do it. Because I'm tired of Blizzard just taking the easy way out that is less good than actually putting in slight effort in making things better. I will bring this 1,100 times over and over again. You need to be an absolute fool to not release Classic World of Warcraft and not make Summoning Stones work. Because when Classic first came out, Summoning Stones did nothing. So, yeah, Blizzard is not just evading the work, they are afraid that they will not be able to do the work. Because that's like Summoning Stones being a thing, being usable from day one was an absolute no-brainer, okay? But Blizzard, they were afraid to do it.
No, I highly doubt that they do, and I feel that overall this has been positive for the game. You know what to expect for future content, you know more or less which classes will be performing well. It's not been a perfect track record, don't get me wrong, but I'd say it's been about 90% right, which seems a good ratio to me. And it lets players relive the game as it was, both the good and the not so good bits. But one of the side effects of this design decision is a sentiment that I've been hearing a bunch since TBC, and now even more in Wrath. And that is, outside of the launch phase, for those playing the game even semi-regularly, there isn't a ton to do in the game besides the raiding content. People wish that there were more goals that they could throw their character at beyond finishing the raid lockout for the week and thinking, maybe I should start an alt. And it's not an unreasonable point to reach, even for more casual players. After all, World of Warcraft is an MMO with a subscription. The sub was designed to be a reason to stick around and feel as though there was enough content in the...
I honestly think if you have a decently social and fun guild, it's enough. Logging in one time a week, playing with a group of people that you like is honestly completely enough to justify whatever this is. So yeah, I think it's enough.
The game to justify it. as well as to pay forwards for future updates. And whilst there will be costs for rebuilding the game onto newer infrastructure, bug fixing and so on, it's not going to be anywhere near on the same level as the development costs back in the day. And I'm just going to say Blizzard during Wrath has made attempts to create more content outside of raids too.
Have
If
they?
this was just a plain no changes Wrath, it would be even more raid-centric. Wrath as an expansion already made significant content pacing changes through the incredible abundance of well-itemized.
I had no idea that's a thing, because I don't play Wrath, as I imagine most of you don't, obviously.
Epics from heroics, raids, badges and PvP. This was always the casual friendly expansion, but nowadays we have the Titan Rune Dungeons or Heroic Plus or Plus Plus or whatever we're calling them. These drop Ulduar gear and Sidereal Essence, so you can work towards 10-man hard mode gear from Ulduar. Trial of the Crusader drops extra badges now that you can't run the same size on multiple different difficulties each week. End of zone quests give badges and so on. And the Heroic Plus dungeons have been good in my opinion. The alternative is dungeon.
That's a lot of changes that I as a casual player would never care about. Nice. No, I'm not saying this even in a mean way. I'm just saying it's nice. More ways to acquire gear is always nice. But are these really big changes? I don't think so. I think these are good changes, but I'm not going to call them big just yet.
Dungeons at this point would be pretty dead, as they were in every expansion ever until challenge modes appeared in Mists of Pandaria. The changes to Ulduar are very positive as well. Once you get Trial of the Crusader on farm, it'll be 30 to 45 minutes for 25 man and even less than that for 10. And that could have been your entire raid content for the week. Also, Wrath has extended classic content in general. There is a mountain companion pet tab, there are achievements, there's PvP of course, and so on.
Wait, no. Wrath had already achievements, did it? No. I kind of remember just being on my... I remember doing achievements in Wrath, like, you know, how many years ago? Or am I delusional?
Now that we're definitely in the second half of Wrath, I've already seen posts crop up about opinions on this expansion which would have, well, let's just say been very hot takes about 12 months ago. I've even heard people say that now apparently this is the expansion which was the start of retail, not Cataclysm. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I mean, I don't think the modern design of World of Warcraft started off until Legion, and we're still a while off that, but anyways. Maybe this is just a me thing, maybe it's not, but I do have a hard time really getting into anything that isn't just raiding, and I've been thinking about it, and I reckon I understand why this is. You see, if I wanted to do collections, reputation farms for older or existing content, I can do that on retail, and retail is far better suited for it. It has collection logs, legacy raid scaling, account-wide collections and progression, updated UIs, professions being split into expansions, and tons more. This part of the game hasn't held up for me because it's competing with what retail can offer, and I think retail just does a better job of it. It has more of the lessons learned over the years of what makes this type of content work, and I'm aware there will be people who have started their whole collections and achievements in Classic for the first time ever who won't have this, and that's good. More power to you for that. But what is totally unique to Classic that retail can never replicate is actually having the current expansion being...
It's having less than 50 active skills that you need to use and rotate, which feels like garbage. That's the reality.
Well, current. To have appropriate class balancing and spells, to get that new expansion launch feeling, to have raids release and be some level of challenge, and to have PvP seasons as they once were. Basically, what I'm saying is if I want to go make a Valanir or farm myself a Thoridal from the Sunwell, I can do that on retail, I can do it solo, and it's going to be much easier than on Classic. But if I wanted to raid Ulduar as it was in Wrath the Lich King, I can never do that on retail, even if somehow I found a level appropriate guild. The class balance is all different, but I can do this in Classic, and that's why I think people these days are more drawn towards the World of Warcraft gameplay loop of Wrath of the Lich King, which is all roads lead to raid. and the raiding has been for the most part good in Wrath so far. It's been great to see it back, because I never did this stuff on hard mode or heroic back in the day. Okay, maybe Naxxramas wasn't the best the second time around, and I'm probably not going to look too favourably back on Trial of the Crusader after many more resets, but at least it's fast, unlike Hyjal was.
Bruh, Trial of the Crusader, I remember what I did back in the day. I made my own Trial of the Crusader raids, because, you know, it's faster than, you know, actually somehow legitimately finishing them. I just took it, random people, no one knew anything, no achievements. Yeah, this game had achievements back then. You know, I took people with no achievements. Some of them had achievements. Obviously, the ones who whispered achievements got an invite. But, man, I made groups for this on my own. Bruh, this was absolutely insane. And it wasn't even master loot. It was rolling. Someone ninja looted my pants. I was super mad. I was beyond mad, actually. Okay, but yeah, man, this thing is so ridiculously easy. I had no idea of any mechanics, and I did not die once. Which is kind of actually bonkers if you think about it. Which means the game is super simple, considering me as a pretty still young teen could do this without wiping, and that everyone did this without wiping. But then again, I live in Europe, you live in America, you know, there's issues there.
And we get to see how class balance plays out with such a huge player base. What new ways to min-max are found, which class is top, who's underperforming, and we have had plenty of surprises in Wrath. The god tier launch state of the Unholy DK, the brief existence of the Fire Warrior, and the sudden and unexpected buffing of Feral Druids, for example. Blizzard have also made minor changes to help certain classes out through the glyph system, and are these days a little more open to helping those struggling or underperforming. Rep Palace have the new glyph for Righteous Defense, Feral's for Omen of Clarity, Warriors for Shattering Throw, and so on. And the natural gear progression of Wrath also provided a shifting meta in of itself. This stuff is all good in PvE content. Whereas setting up the game on the last patch tends to not hold up so favourably though is PvP. Whilst you can clear a raid just fine without a min-max setup, in PvP it doesn't work that way because you're against other players, and other players are going to pick the best thing more often than not. This leads to a very narrow meta of viable comps, often against the same people, with the near guarantee that the established meta will never change.
Yeah, but that's literally the same as in retail, though. So I don't know if we can even complain about this.
This just kind of isn't how PvP games work. And Wrath of the Lich King's PvP participation is somehow lower than it was in TBC. I expected it to be higher as an absolute given.
Bruh.
In Classic, a duelist often has to be above 2k rating in 2s, and Gladiator and Rank 1 have been inflated through the roof due to questionable practices by top players. TBC PvP, can I remind you, had Stun Resist, Wind Fury RNG, Mace Spec RNG, Heartbeat Resist, and random tornadoes that would break CC on Ring of Blood. That's on top of PvE players not doing Arena for gear anymore as they did in TBC. In fact, it's the other way round now. Oh, and how gear works in these old expansions for PvP is such an enormous barrier to entry that just doesn't do the game any favours at all. A mandatory battleground grind where you get demolished for hours and hours upon end before you can even begin to see how your class actually plays in the content. It's unfortunate, but it's really no wonder that this has happened. Now I'm starting to hear just wait, Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria were the big PvP expansions, but I'm concerned for those looking forwards to it, and that it'll just be a repeat of what we've seen in Wrath, and the game will still just push people towards raiding as the main attraction. Then again, I've no doubt that lots of us enjoy doing the raid and being done.
I mean, PvP has always been like a secondary thing in the World of Warcraft. It's like a fun activity, but it's a niche activity. You can't get around it.
This is the era of the game before the chores began. I don't know know if you played from Legion to Shadowlands, but Blizzard
Nope.
caught so much flack from trying to force people to log in to remain relevant in raids. You think you want more to do until you find out what that involves. And there are things to do outside of raiding, even in Wrath. When people say there's nothing to do, it often really means I don't like the things that there are to do. But I get where the feeling of just raid and then you're done comes from, for the reasons I've already gone over. And the reason people are playing Classic in the first place is because they want to play the expansion as it was back then. So if you change it too much, it makes it something different. There's this paradox called the Ship of Theseus. It raises the question of whether an object that has had all of its components replaced remains fundamentally the same object. Classic is built onto modern infrastructure with custom changes, last patch balance, and biggest of all, a dramatically different player base. It simply can't be the same experience as it was back in the day because time has moved on, time has changed, and with each Classic expansion, Blizzard themselves have begun to change more and more within the game too. In fact, Blizzard have done some real experimental stuff in Wrath. Heroic Plus systems to keep dungeons relevant, updating Ulduar's item levels and doing pre-nerf, Wintergrasp is a region-wide battleground now, badges from questing, actually nerfing and buffing certain classes for the first time, and still people call Wrath the raid log expansion. Do you think that these things, these changes have been a positive, and do you want to...
Unless... Yeah, but I think this is super true. Unless you play PvP, there's no reason to play. There's nothing else to do in Wrath. The money farming is literally useless. I mean, you can, but when I played Wrath, I never farmed for money. It was useless. There was no point in it. I don't remember anything that I needed money for. You got cold weather flying just through, default questing through the zone, and that wasn't a problem. So, I don't know. I think in Classic you at least kind of needed to farm, a gold time to time for your things. By the way, I was farming Primal Earth near Dalaran. Those things. Yeah, always empty. Amazing spot, boys. Trust me. Plus, there's these chests that you could open. Man, it was good stuff, boys.
To see further changes in class balancing in Cataclysm, or do you just mainly want the expansion as it was and to play it for what it is, and these custom things should come in seasonal servers or be put on error versions of the game? Remember, as we get
I think they should change everything. Again, I have already said this before. I think they should change stuff. No one remembers how it was. It is what it is.
Further into future expansions, they do begin to build on horizontal content by themselves, and more choices of things to do is not a bad thing, but I think you have to be cautious of making them necessary for players to do. And personally, I don't mind the raid-centric gameplay. That's the main reason I started Classic again. This is just an observation of the state of the game, I suppose. As for PvPers, are you happy with how TBC and Wrath have played out so far? Or is it time for Blizzard to shake off the outdated gear grinds and one-size-fits-all class balancing a few expansions early? And I'm betting, assuming Cataclysm happens, that Blizzard ends up getting even more experimental, with us going past the initial trilogy. But let me know what you think about the video. I went over quite a few things here, so
I
whatever
think that
seems
would be
important
nice
to you, let me know about it below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one very soon.
Nice. Well, that's Willy. Let me just do this. There we go. Oops. Misclick. Well, that's Willy. Pretty good stuff right here. In any case, this was Cruiser Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.